Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will embark on a journey through Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, first published in 1922, is a philosophical novel that explores the spiritual journey of its protagonist, Siddhartha, as he seeks self-discovery and enlightenment. Set in ancient India, the novel draws heavily from Hinduism, Buddhism, and Hesse's personal reflections on the nature of human existence. It is a work that explores deep themes of knowledge, self, and enlightenment through the eyes of a man who is dissatisfied with conventional teachings and paths to wisdom. Hesse received the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1946, and Siddartha remains one of his most celebrated works. Plot summary. In the shade of the riverbank, near the boats, and under the fig tree, Siddhartha grew up as the handsome son of a Brahmanutes. He was loved by all, by his parents, by his friend Govinda, and by the Brahman's daughters. But Siddhartha was not at peace. He longed for something more than the wisdom of the Brahmins, more than their sacred rituals and offerings. He wanted to find the innermost essence of life, the Atman, which lay beyond the teachings of his father and the learned men around him. One day, wandering ascetics known as Samanas arrived in Siddhartha's village. These men lived in poverty, practicing extreme self-denial in pursuit of spiritual awakening. Siddhartha decided to follow them, convinced that true knowledge could only be found through renouncing the comforts of life. His closest friend, Govinda, joined him, trusting that Siddhartha's path would lead them both to enlightenment. Together, they lived among the Samanas, fasting and meditating until their bodies grew weak and their senses numb. Siddhartha endured physical suffering and detached himself from the desires of the flesh. Yet despite the years spent in asceticism, peace eluded him. News of a great teacher, the Buddha, began to spread across the land. Gautama, known as the Enlightened One, was said to have attained nirvana and broken free from the endless cycle of rebirth. Intrigued, Siddhartha and Govinda journeyed to hear the Buddha's teachings. In the town of Savatthi, they found Gautama surrounded by disciples, teaching the path to the cessation of suffering. Govinda, struck by the wisdom and serenity of the Buddha, chose to stay and become his follower. But Siddhartha, while filled with admiration for Gautama, did not join him. He believed that enlightenment could not be taught through doctrines or words. It had to be experienced. Siddhartha thanked the Buddha for his wisdom, but resolved to continue his search alone. As he left the town, a great sense of awakening filled him. He was no longer a seeker of teachers or teachings. From this point on, Siddhartha would learn only from himself and the world around him. Siddhartha crossed a river and entered a new phase of life. In the city, he met Kamala, a beautiful courtesan who taught him the art of love. She introduced him to Kamaswami, a wealthy merchant, and Siddhartha began to live as a man of the world. He learned the ways of business, making money and indulging in the pleasures of the senses. Years passed, and Siddhartha became rich, dressing in fine clothes and living in luxury. He enjoyed Kamala's company, and together they explored the pleasures of love. Yet, the more he embraced the material world, the more a deep sense of dissatisfaction grew within him. Wealth and indulgence began to feel hollow to Siddhartha. He grew tired of his life among merchants and gamblers, realizing that the pleasures of the flesh were fleeting and left his soul empty. His inner voice, the one that had driven him to seek something greater, grew quiet under the weight of his indulgences. Eventually, Siddhartha could bear it no longer. He left the city, abandoning his life of wealth and pleasure, and returned to the river, where he had once crossed as a wanderer. By the river, Siddhartha met the ferryman Vasudeva. Vasudeva was a humble man who lived in harmony with the river, listening to its secrets. Siddhartha asked to stay with him, and together they ferried people across the water. In the quiet company of the ferryman, Siddhartha learned to listen, not just to the river, but to life itself. The river, ever-flowing and eternal, taught him that time is an illusion, that life is a cycle of beginnings and endings, and that all things are interconnected. As he listened to the river, Siddhartha found the peace that had eluded him for so long. One day, Kamala, now a follower of the Buddha, came to the river with her young son. She had left behind her life as a courtesan. Unbeknownst to Siddhartha, the boy was his own son. Kamala, bitten by a snake, died in Siddhartha's arms, leaving the boy in his care. Siddhartha, now filled with love for his son, struggled to raise the boy, who resented him and longed to return to the city. The boy eventually fled, leaving Siddhartha heartbroken. Yet, this suffering became another source of wisdom for him. Through his pain, Siddhartha learned to let go of attachment and accept the flow of life. As the years passed, Siddhartha grew old, content in his life by the river. Govinda, still seeking enlightenment, heard of a wise ferryman living by the water. When he arrived, he did not recognize Siddhartha, but Siddhartha recognized him. Govinda had followed the Buddha's teachings for many years, but had not yet found the peace he sought. Siddhartha, now filled with understanding, told his old friend that enlightenment could not be found through teachers or doctrines, but only through experiencing life itself. In a moment of profound connection, Siddhartha asked Govinda to kiss him on the forehead. As Govinda did so, he saw in Siddhartha's face the unity of all life, the river, the trees, the stars, the suffering, and the joy. In this instant, Govinda glimpsed the same truth that Siddhartha had found. Siddhartha had become one with the flow of life, and his search for enlightenment was complete. This was just one story. Hermann Hesse has plenty more for you to discover. Check them out in the description or on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Hermann Hesse's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.